I enjoy being not just the only woman, but a woman of color on the podcast, because I'm able to have the perspective that obviously they won't be able to have.
You made me a masterpiece. I'm your masterpiece. You made me masterpiece. Your masterpiece.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Siobhan and I'm the founder of Fearfully and Wonderfully Made. So right now I'm in a series titled Women Walking in Passion and Purpose, just to highlight a variety of women with their own platform, walking in their God-given dreams and their purposes. So today I have the privilege of interviewing Miss Ashley, and I'm so excited for her to be here.
Hey, people.
And so I'll just let you introduce yourself, and we can jump right into the interview.
My name is Ashley, and I am part of a podcast here in Dallas called We Talk Different.
Oh, that was short. Okay, that's all? That's all
What else you want to know?
We want to know about you, girl, because she does a lot of stuff, y'all.
Too much to tell.
Just tell everybody what you do.
Well, I am from Atlanta. I moved out to Dallas 5 years ago to go to seminary, which has been, well, it was fun. So I finished that last year and decided to stay. And Vaughn and I know each other from church, so we go to the same church where I work in the worship department. I lead worship and also do program coordinating.
Okay, cool.
So
I like that. I like that. That was a lot better. So I'm ready to jump right into the interview.
Let's do it.
So, you shared about yourself. I feel like we got a good gist of who Ashley is. So second, so what inspired you to create your podcast, We Talk Different? Well, first, let's talk about the podcast before we just jump into the why. So.
Well, yes. Okay, so the We Talk Different podcast is a podcast that intersects our Christian worldviews with culture, theology, politics, race, gender, basically a whole bunch of hot topics. Whatever's going on in the world, what we're doing on our podcast is trying to train ourselves how to think rightly about things and to nuance situations that a lot of people like for things to be polarized or black and white is probably more gray than we would assume. And it's a podcast with myself and two other guys that I know that I met in seminary, Ryan and Elijah. So we've been doing it for 2 years. Like I told you, so we're on the 100th episode right now.
100 episodes.
So yes, we've been talking a lot. So
okay. So how has this podcast just helped you in your walk with Christ, or you know?
A lot. When I moved from Atlanta to Dallas, I didn't anticipate what would meet me when I got here, which was what I would call a thick racial tension and a deep history in Dallas of racism and white supremacy and all that stuff. So I'm sure these are going to be trigger words for some people that watch this video, but I say go watch or listen to some podcasts and you'll hear more of my heart behind that. But coming to Dallas, I assumed that the faith community would have a better approach to issues like that and maybe more of an aggressive tactical plan to deal with all that kind of stuff. And so coming here in 2013, that was almost around the time we were starting to see things in the news for our generation, like Trayvon Martin and I mean the list, we can go for a while talking about that. And then it culminated with the Dallas police shooting, and I think that was the moment where I had to make a decision, you know, Lord, what does it look like to be a Christian and respond to this type of atrocity and all of the events that led up to that event, Philando Castile and Alton Sterling. And so specifically as a black woman, I really had to ask, where is God, and does he see me, and does he care about me, and am I reading the scriptures rightly? And then if I am, then how does that translate into my current context? So it's helped me keep the faith, honestly.
Wow. So you talked a little bit about, I guess it kind of sounded like inspiration behind it as well, and kind of your why. So if you could share like a story about how it's benefited the community, like if people have told you like, I listened to your podcast and now I think differently, or I look at the Bible differently or God differently. Like,
yeah, it's been kind of weird. I don't think we ever anticipated to have the type of impact that we've had. For the three of us, like I said, honestly, the podcast was birthed out of conversations we were already having. And we decided, well, let's share it and just see what kind of feedback or interaction we'd have with those we were in community with. But we just hit the ground running, tried to put the podcast on all platforms where you can find podcasts. And the response has been surprising, and we've heard people have used our podcast in their church trainings. That's probably been one of the bigger ones, because churches are trying to find resources to help them talk or discuss or learn how to have conversations about certain topics when things are so polarized. That I've had personal messages from a lot of actually women that have messaged me specifically trying to find out, how do I have this conversation in my context. So it's been all over the United States. I don't think we're international yet. I don't know. I need to ask. But I think what we found is that the church is thirsty for resources on how to deal with these topics, specifically in their own local communities. Like, how do I talk to someone else about a topic that already divides us? And how do I maintain relationship if I don't agree? And what does the Bible say about a certain thing? And if it does or doesn't, how do I deal with that if it's not explicitly clear? So stuff like that, we've learned people are kind of taken to our style, I guess, of podcasting.
That's good.
Yeah.
So like, I know on your podcast you talk a lot, not only about race but about gender as well. So for you being the only woman on your podcast, how are you able to use your voice to advocate for us, like as minorities, as women, as minorities, as black women, with two guys?
I give it to them. I'll be honest. I shoot it straight with them all the time, because they're my brothers, honestly. I enjoy being not just the only woman, but a woman of color on the podcast, because I'm able to have the perspective that obviously they won't be able to have, but how, when we're talking about a particular topic, how that intersects with my womanhood and my blackness all at the same time, which is a very unique position. I think that honestly, I've learned a lot about being a woman, and a black woman at that, being on the podcast, because I've had to wrestle and answer or ask myself certain questions that I wasn't asking before. And then you begin to intersect that with a whole bunch of other stuff. I'm black, I'm a woman, I'm in ministry, I'm not married, I don't have any kids. So all of those things kind of combine to create a unique situation that I think, had I not been a part of the podcast, I wouldn't have been able to speak into as well as I think I can now.
Okay. That's cool. So have you had any rifts or like kind of like, not conflicts with the people on your podcast, but just what am I trying to say? I'm like, the word just lost me. But have you had any rifts with people that might have tried to come against what you're doing on your platform?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think just by nature, because of what we're talking about, I mean, you throw out a word like Trump, it doesn't matter what you say after that. Whatever you say, you're going to find somebody that disagrees with you.
It's a huge fallout.
Yeah, if you say words like racism, if you say words like feminist, people are going to rise up and say, I have a thought about whatever you have to say about that. So that has been expected. Yeah, we've gotten our emails. We haven't gotten any hate mail yet, which makes me think maybe we're not doing enough work. So no hate mail just yet. We got to keep working. But I have experience with probably mostly white people, their offense to my tone. And as a black woman, that is an interesting thing to try to explain to white people why that's offensive and all of that. But I think getting them to understand that you have to equip yourself on how to listen to both my tone and what I'm saying is a part of it. But I have received flack about that, like, oh, I feel like you are lecturing me, or or you are putting yourself in this position to teach me something, and it's like, that's exactly the point.
Yeah.
I want you to learn from me while we're together, but not in like a power structure way, but more so in a brother sister way. And I think a lot of people aren't used to Black women speaking in that way, in that Christian space like that.
That's good.
So,
okay. So Ashley, share with us how this has been a passion and a purpose for you.
okay, it is a newer found passion of mine. Definitely a part of my purpose. I don't think I knew I would have this type of passion to want to discuss topics of race, gender, politics, and all of that, and how it intersects with my own individual being until I came to Dallas. Like I said, this climate was totally different from where I'm from Atlanta, and not that systemic racism isn't there, but the overt type of racism wasn't really there. Atlanta is way more diverse than Dallas, so moving here was more of a culture shock, and that wouldn't have been so much of the problem until I went to seminary, and I thought surely at seminary there's going to be a different approach to some of these topics, and what I discovered is that wasn't true. And I had to kind of walk through a process of healing and forgiveness for those that have been doing theology way longer than I've been born, been alive. And also not kind of put out the fire in the passion that the Lord was raising up in me about social justice. So it was kind of like this interesting experience of a pressing and a shaping and a molding that was more painful in the beginning than I anticipated, but it was out of that pain that I realized, okay, this fits right in line with everything else that God had purposed me to do. I went to my undergraduate degree was at Georgia State University, which was in journalism and public relations, and a minor in music management. So it's kind of certain parts of my life started to make sense here. And some of my newfound passions, some of my old passions, and definitely all of the different threads that the Lord had made clear in my life started to converge in Dallas. So
I like that. So how has this been a learning experience for you with We Talk Different and just having a podcast and this platform?
Well, wow. Technically, I think it's been a lot to learn just what it means to have a quality podcast with audio, and when you get guests on, learning all the technical stuff with having to do a podcast. And thank God I have those other two guys that actually do it professionally, so I lean on them heavily. But then also just I've learned a lot as far as workflow and building an editorial calendar, like what are we going to be talking about through the year. We just did our first series this year on Dallas specifically, in the history of Dallas, so that was a lot of fun, just curating speakers and information and books and resources. So I'm always learning, whether it's like technical or with just the craft creatively, and then just personal reflection. Whenever we talk about something, I'm not removed from whatever we're talking about. I have to see myself in that moment and question myself as well. If we're going to talk different about things, I got to be included in that. So it's been a learning process.
Yeah, I can only imagine, like, for sure. So the last one is share a tip for those possibly wanting to start a platform as such, like a podcast or maybe something about social justice.
I'll separate them. I'd say if you want to start a podcast, do it as soon as possible, especially if your podcast is going to center around content that is related to like current events or culture or anything like that. You will never have enough voices speaking into those types of issues. So your voice is needed, and there's too many resources, free resources that you can use to get it done. I'd say definitely organize your thoughts, figure out what your podcast is about, and then also if you don't fully know, just start, because a lot of times over time you'll find out how much you're talking about one thing. You'll say, okay, this is my thing. This is my niche. And so let yourself grow into it. I think for us as well, we ended up even changing our opening byline. I can't even remember what it is now because it's so new. But what we found was over time we were talking about a certain set of things, which is social justice, gender, and politics or something like that, and how it intersects with our faith. And so we found that out over time, just continued to kind of whittle away at the extra stuff. So it doesn't matter what your topic is, just start and let yourself grow in front of people. Don't be afraid to say the wrong things, be uneducated about certain things.
Yeah.
You will learn, and people will learn with you. It's a journey. So I'd say don't be afraid to do it. And as far as social justice, I think, my heart is that even if you don't have a passion for it, that you find out how you can get involved and wherever you're living, your specific community, who you can affect. Because I promise you there are people that are needing you to think critically about what's happening as far as justice. There's always going to be something to do until Jesus returns. So this is kind of a eternal topic until he comes back. So get involved. I mean, there are too many needs, and I think the church is powerful enough because we have the Holy Spirit to do some great work. So
Yes. Yay!
Yes.
Well, thank you for sitting on.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
On the channel, and definitely shameless plug. She have her shirt on, but
y'all. I normally never do this.
tell us about the social media where everybody can find you at. If
Okay.
there's a website, just.
Sure. Literally everything is We Talk Different. So wetalkdifferent.com. We Talk Different on Instagram, Facebook, which I don't actually do the Facebook thing. Somebody else does it. So I think we have a Facebook group. We're on SoundCloud, iTunes, Stitcher, something else. So just look up We Talk Different. You'll find us.
And I'll make sure I highlight it on the screen and put everything in the description bar so y'all can go check them out and check Ashley out because she's deep, man. This girl's good. So
Okay.
I'm just so grateful to have you. And
Thank you.
until next time,
Holla.
holla.
That's what I said. Holla.